She texted her son every single day. She never went anywhere without her bullet necklace, a symbol of the strength that had carried her through a hard life. But on September 8, 2017, Taylor Wright vanished, right after meeting the one person she trusted most, a friend she'd confided in, a friend she'd handed over her money to for safekeeping. That same friend would later be caught on camera buying concrete and potting soil. This is the story of betrayal disguised as friendship, a case that began with two women sitting side by side in a truck on a warm Florida morning and ended in a shallow grave wrapped in a hammock beneath a layer of cement. Taylor Wright was a mother, a former police officer, and a private investigator who had survived more than her share of pain. She'd fought through a difficult childhood, a broken marriage, and the loss of her career. But nothing prepared her for what was coming. The most chilling part? Taylor trusted the woman who would ultimately take her life. I'm your host, and this is The Guilty Crime Stories. Tonight, we uncover the twisted case of killed by her best friend, the murder of Taylor Wright. Stay with me, because this one isn't just about greed. It's about how love, loyalty, and trust can turn deadly in the hands of the wrong person. Before the headlines, before the betrayal, there was Taylor Wright, a girl who learned too early that the world doesn't always give second chances. Born on April 24, 1984, Taylor's early life was marked by hardship. By the age of 13, she was already in foster care, pulled away from her biological mother. She was small, fragile-looking, with long, stringy hair and eyes that carried both fear and defiance. But even then, there was fight in her. That fight caught the attention of Nancy Murchison, a kind-hearted neighbor who saw something worth saving. Nancy opened her door and her heart to a girl the system had all but forgotten. Nancy would later say, "I don't know what it was about her. I just said, you can come stay with us." From that day, Taylor had something she'd never really known before. A home. She thrived under Nancy's care. Despite her scars, Taylor grew into a warm, funny, and surprisingly outgoing young woman. Friends would say she wanted to be friends with everyone. The kind of person who'd make you feel seen, even if she was quietly fighting her own battles. And that's the duality that defined her. Tough on the outside, gentle at heart. Years later, life brought her to North Carolina, where she met a U.S. Marine named Jeff Wright. Their first date wasn't candlelight or flowers. It was throwing knives at a dartboard. That's how Taylor rolled. She was different, competitive, strong, confident, and yet she could light up a room in a dress. The two married in 2007 and welcomed a son, Drake, in 2010. To Taylor, motherhood wasn't just a role, it was redemption. She poured into Drake every ounce of love she'd missed in her own childhood. By her late 20s, she'd joined the Jacksonville Police Department, serving with courage and pride. Colleagues described her as spirited, brave, and fiercely loyal. Taylor even wore a silver bullet necklace, a small piece of metal that became her emblem. To her, it symbolized survival, proof that she could be both the target and the fighter, but as life often does, it changed. The strength that had built her life would soon be tested by betrayal, by loss, and by the one person she thought she could trust most. For a while, Taylor's life looked like it was finally coming together. She was married to a Marine. She had a healthy, happy little boy. She had a career that gave her purpose, serving and protecting others as a police officer. But beneath the surface, things weren't as picture-perfect as they seemed. When the family moved to Florida, the marriage began to unravel. Long hours, emotional distance, and growing mistrust started eating away at the foundation. Then, on what was supposed to be their 10th wedding anniversary dinner, Taylor and Jeff made a decision that would change everything. They agreed, right there at the table, to get a divorce. That decision marked the start of a downward spiral. The separation became bitter, with heated arguments over custody of their son, Drake, and over money. The court froze their assets, and for Taylor, who had always fought to maintain control over her life, It felt like losing everything all over again. In defiance of that court order, she withdrew $100,000 from their joint account. It was her accident settlement money, and she believed she had a right to it. But the judge didn't see it that way. What followed was chaos. During one argument, Jeff called the police. Taylor was arrested for battery. Charges later dropped, but the damage was done. No police department would rehire her. Her once proud law enforcement career was over. Taylor tried to rebuild. She reinvented herself as a private investigator in Pensacola. Still driven to uncover truth, still living by that code of justice she believed in. And amid the storm, she found love again. On a dating site, she met Cassandra Waller, a local school administrator. The relationship wasn't perfect. There were fights, mistakes, and moments of distrust, but there was also love, laughter, and a shared dream of starting fresh. By September 2017, Taylor was moving into Cassandra's home. Cassandra even spent her birthday weekend helping Taylor carry boxes, saying later, "I didn't mind. I was just happy she was home." But the past wasn't finished with Taylor. The court battles continued. Her finances were unraveling, and looming over her life was a single date, September 12th, the day she had to bring $25,000 to court, or risk losing everything, including her son. 4 days before that deadline, Taylor would disappear. By late summer 2017, Taylor Wright's life had become a balancing act between desperation and hope. She was trying to rebuild, working as a private investigator, settling into Cassandra's home, and preparing for her next custody hearing. But there was one problem she couldn't escape: money. The court had frozen all her accounts during the divorce. Taylor believed the $100,000 she'd received years earlier from a car accident settlement was rightfully hers, not marital property. But the judge disagreed, demanding transparency and threatening penalties if she didn't comply. So Taylor made a risky choice. She withdrew the money before the freeze could lock it up, and to protect it, she split it up among friends she trusted. People she thought would keep it safe. One of those friends was Ashley MacArthur. Ashley wasn't just any friend. She was a former crime scene technician with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, someone Taylor related to because of their shared background in law enforcement. Ashley was charming, confident, and easy to talk to. Taylor believed she could trust her, so when Taylor handed Ashley $34,000 to keep in a safety deposit box until the divorce was over, she thought she was being smart, staying one step ahead of the court. But in truth, she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. As the September 12th court date approached, the pressure mounted. Taylor needed that $25,000 check for the hearing. Without it, she risked being found in contempt and losing custody of Drake entirely. She texted Ashley again and again, asking when they could meet to get her money back. Ashley kept stalling, first saying she was busy, then promising they'd go to the bank soon. Finally, on Friday, September 8, 2017, Ashley agreed. They would run a few errands together and stop by the bank. That morning, Taylor got ready, put on her bullet necklace, and texted Cassandra about her plans for the day. At 11:20 a.m., she sent her last message. Hours later, Cassandra's phone would light up with a text that didn't sound like Taylor at all. The countdown had begun. Taylor Wright's last day had just started. To understand what happened next, we need to understand Ashley MacArthur, the woman Taylor thought was her friend. Ashley was 40 years old, married to a man named Zach MacArthur, and once worked as a crime scene technician for the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. She wasn't a sworn deputy, but she knew the ins and outs of evidence handling, investigations, and most dangerously, how to cover her tracks. On the surface, Ashley was friendly, outgoing, even fun to be around. She knew how to make people trust her. But beneath that polished exterior was a woman in serious financial trouble. She had been embezzling money from her family's business, Pensacola Automatic Amusement, which supplied jukeboxes and pool tables to local bars. Over 2 years, between 2015 and 2017, Ashley had siphoned off thousands of dollars falsified records, and shortchanged business owners to feed her secret double life. Part of that life was an affair with Brandon Batty, the owner of Styx Billiard Hall. She spent lavishly on him, paying his bills, buying him gifts, even purchasing a boat, all while her husband, Zach, remained completely unaware. She also had another romantic entanglement with a bartender named Audrey Waugh. Ashley's financial world was collapsing. The walls were closing in. She was stealing to stay afloat. And then Taylor's money appeared. On August 16, 2017, a few weeks before Taylor disappeared, Ashley walked into her bank and deposited a cashier's check for $34,000 made out to Taylor Wright. The signature was forged. Taylor never signed that check. Ashley spent the money almost immediately, clearing debts, buying luxuries, and showering gifts on her lover. When Taylor began asking for her money back, Ashley started dodging her calls. Every excuse imaginable. I'm busy. Tomorrow. The bank's closed. But the truth was simple. The money was gone, and with Taylor's court date approaching, she was running out of patience. She needed that cash. Ashley knew it. So when Taylor insisted they go to the bank together on Friday, September 8th, Ashley agreed. She smiled, said, "Of course, we'll sort it out." But behind that smile, a different plan was already forming. By the end of that day, only one of them would come home. It was Friday, September 8th, 2017, a normal Florida morning. Blue skies, humid air, the kind of day that feels ordinary, until you look back and realize it was the beginning of something tragic. Taylor Wright had one goal that day: meet her friend Ashley MacArthur, collect her money, and finally put this financial nightmare to rest before her upcoming court hearing. Around 10 a.m., she left Cassandra's house. She texted her throughout the morning, small, normal messages, until one final text at 11:20 a.m. That was the last time anyone ever heard from Taylor. Ashley later told police the two of them spent the day running errands, visiting the bank, grabbing food, and riding horses at her family's property in East Milton. She claimed that, after a few hours, she dropped Taylor back at her own house around 4:45 p.m., and that Taylor told her she was catching an Uber to go downtown for a drink. But there was one huge problem. Investigators checked every rideshare record. Uber, Lyft, taxis, nothing. No car ever picked up Taylor Wright that day. While Cassandra was waiting for Taylor to call or come home, her phone buzzed at 7:58 p.m. It was a text from Taylor's number. "I'll call you later." "I'm not angry with you. I just need to think." Cassandra froze. The tone wasn't right. Taylor didn't write like that. A few hours later, another message arrived. "I'm okay. I just need some time to think. The move and court are stressful. Everything's okay." But everything wasn't okay. Cassandra knew it. Taylor was supposed to be with her that weekend. They had plans, including Cassandra's birthday dinner. Taylor would never have missed that. And she certainly would never have gone this long without texting her son, Drake. The next morning, Cassandra called Ashley. Ashley answered. Her voice was calm, too calm. She said Taylor couldn't come to the phone because she was riding horses at the family farm. Then she said they'd changed plans, gone to East Milton instead of the bank. The excuses didn't make sense. Cassandra pressed, but Ashley brushed it off. She said, "Don't worry, she's fine. She'll call later." That call never came. Over the weekend, Cassandra's unease turned into panic. She texted, called, even checked hospitals. Taylor's phone stayed dark. Finally, on September 14th, 6 days later, Cassandra filed a missing persons report with the Pensacola Police Department. Detectives searched Taylor's home. Her car was parked in the driveway. Her passport, wallet, cash, even clothes, all untouched. It looked as if she'd planned to return that day. At first, police didn't see anything suspicious. A spokesperson said publicly, "We have no reason to believe foul play occurred. We think she left on her own." But Taylor's family and friends knew better. Nancy Murchison, the woman who raised her, said, "Something's wrong. She would never just disappear. Someone has done something horrible to her." Behind the scenes, detectives started to see cracks in Ashley's story. They traced her phone records, reviewed surveillance cameras, and interviewed the people closest to Taylor, the smiling, trustworthy friend who said she'd spent the day with Taylor, was about to become their prime suspect. The last person to see Taylor alive was also the one who had the most to lose if she lived. When the missing person report came in, detectives did what they always do. They started with the people closest to Taylor Wright. First on the list was her girlfriend, Cassandra Waller. After all, Cassandra was the one who'd reported Taylor missing. Investigators searched her home, her phone, her digital history. They found Taylor's passport, ID, and money, things Taylor had left behind while moving in. They also found a revolver missing one bullet. Cassandra explained she'd bought it for protection. Jeff, Taylor's ex-husband, had told her Taylor could get violent. Her story held up, and her phone records backed it up. Cassandra was ruled out. Next came Jeff Wright, the ex-husband. He had motive: a bitter divorce, a custody fight, missing money. But Jeff was hundreds of miles away in North Carolina the weekend Taylor vanished. His alibi checked out. He was cleared too. That left one person, the last person to see Taylor alive: Ashley MacArthur. On September 15th, just a week after Taylor disappeared, Ashley came in for her first formal interview with Pensacola police. She told detectives she and Taylor had run errands that day: the bank, a few stores, then horseback riding at her family's property in East Milton. Around 4:45 p.m., she claimed, Taylor left her house to get an Uber downtown. Detective Chad Wilhite remembered something strange about her demeanor. Ashley wasn't nervous. She wasn't sad. She was flirty, even playful. She smiled. She joked. There was no trace of concern for her supposedly missing friend, but within days, that calm confidence would crack. Investigators pulled Ashley's phone records, and what they found shattered her story. On the day Taylor vanished, September 8, 2017, Ashley's phone wasn't anywhere near East Milton. Between 11:52 a.m. and 1:44 p.m., her phone pinged off towers near Britt Road, land owned by her family. It pinged there again between 2:40 p.m. and 3:33 p.m. Ashley had been on her family's property in Cantonment, not horseback riding miles away. Then came the surveillance footage. On the morning of September 8th, cameras at a Tom Thumb supermarket showed Ashley buying beer, the same kind Taylor liked. But the next day, September 9th at 1:07 p.m., she was filmed again, this time at a Home Depot, purchasing bags of fast-setting concrete and potting soil. And that wasn't all. Detectives learned Ashley had called her cousin that morning, asking if he'd be at the Britt Road farm. He told her no, he'd be attending a funeral. The property would be empty. Then came the witnesses. Brandon Batty, Ashley's lover, told police that she'd bragged, "They'll never find her." Another woman, Audrey Waugh, said Ashley had talked about spiking Taylor's beer with cocaine to cause an overdose. Two more friends, Alexis Cook and Jessica Wheeler, confirmed hearing similar things. Ashley had joked about killing Taylor, and now Taylor was missing. By October, investigators had everything except the one piece they needed most: Taylor's body. So on October 19th, they invited Ashley back to the station. This time, under the pretense of returning her phone, she was read her rights again. She acted relaxed, saying, "I think Taylor's fine. She's tough, always armed. She can take care of herself." But while Ashley sat in that interview room, search teams were already combing through the Britt Road property. Just 10 minutes after Ashley was released, a cadaver dog alerted near the fence line. Officers started digging. There, beneath layers of concrete and potting soil, they found what looked like part of a human skull, and next to it, a bullet necklace. The necklace was unmistakable. Taylor Wright had been found. October 19th, 2017. As detectives unearthed a shallow grave on the MacArthur family farm, they found the truth that had been buried beneath concrete: lies and betrayal, encased in a mix of fast-setting cement and potting soil, were the skeletal remains of a woman. Her skull had a gunshot wound to the back of the head, an execution-style kill. wrapped in a hammock, surrounded by remnants of the same material seen on that Home Depot receipt, and there, resting beside her, was Taylor Wright's bullet necklace, the same one she wore every day. For detectives, there was no doubt. Taylor had been murdered, shot, buried, and left behind by the woman she trusted most. The next day, dental records confirmed what everyone feared. The remains belonged to Taylor Wright. She had been missing for 41 days. That evening, Ashley MacArthur was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, later upgraded to first-degree premeditated murder by a grand jury in November. Her bond was set at $1 million for Taylor's loved ones. The arrest brought a painful kind of relief. Nancy Murchison, the woman who had raised Taylor like her own daughter, said softly, "She was a great mother, a beautiful soul, and that woman, that evil woman, took her from us." While awaiting trial, Ashley continued to live under the spotlight of local media. Then in February 2018, just months after being charged with Taylor's murder, she was granted pre-trial release on a $400,000 bond, allowed to live with her mother under GPS monitoring. But her freedom didn't last long. Before the murder trial could begin, she was convicted in a separate fraud and racketeering case, the very crimes tied to her family business. In January 2019, a judge sentenced her to 7 years in state prison, plus 3 years of probation. By the time her murder trial came around, Ashley was already behind bars. August 2019, the murder trial begins. The prosecution, led by Bridget Myers Jensen, lays out the story piece by piece: motive, opportunity, cover-up. Ashley was drowning in debt, stealing from her family, and spending lavishly on an affair. When Taylor started demanding her money back, money Ashley had already spent, she decided there was only one way to silence her. Jensen told the jury, Ashley MacArthur had motive, Ashley MacArthur had opportunity, and Ashley MacArthur killed Taylor Wright, then tried to bury the evidence with concrete and lies. The defense countered. They claimed Ashley came from a wealthy family and didn't need Taylor's $34,000. They pointed out there was no DNA evidence, no recovered gun, and that the state's case was entirely circumstantial, but the prosecution's web was tight. Impossibly tight. They had bank records showing Ashley deposited the forged $34,000. Cashier's check made out to Taylor. They had cell tower data, placing her at the Britt Road farm. During the time of the murder, they had Home Depot footage of her buying the exact materials used to bury Taylor. They had witnesses, people who recalled her, talking about killing Taylor, spiking her drink, even bragging she'd never be found. And they had consciousness of guilt, the flirty, detached attitude with detectives, the ever-changing stories, the forged documents. One by one, witnesses took the stand. Brandon Batty, her former lover, recounted Ashley's chilling words. "They'll never find her." Audrey Waugh, the bartender, described Ashley's talk of mixing cocaine into Taylor's beer. And then there was Nancy, Taylor's foster mother, who looked at Ashley from across the courtroom and said nothing. Her silence said enough. Ashley's husband, Zach, took the stand too. When asked if he believed his wife could commit murder, he hesitated, sighed, and said, "I can't see her doing something like that. But it's sloppy." After 4 days of testimony and 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Ashley MacArthur, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm." Ashley showed no emotion, no tears, no reaction. Judge John Shackelford sentenced her to life in prison with a mandatory minimum of 25 years before parole eligibility. Combined with her other convictions, it ensured she would remain behind bars for decades, well into her 70s. In April 2021, Ashley appealed the conviction. The appellate court denied the appeal, reaffirming the sentence. She will not be eligible for parole until 2044. For Taylor's family, justice brought no comfort. Nancy said, "In so many ways I was robbed. I love her and miss her. That will never stop." Cassandra still struggles with the betrayal, saying, "Ashley pretended to be my friend. The whole time she knew what she'd done, and little Drake, Taylor's son, grew up without the one person who loved him most." Taylor's life ended at the hands of someone she called a friend, a woman she trusted with her heart. Her money, her secrets, and ultimately, her life. But even in death, Taylor's strength endures. In her son, in the people who fought for her, and in the story that now stands as a warning. Trust can be fatal. When the trial ended, there was no celebration, just silence, the kind that follows when the truth finally lands. For Taylor Wright's loved ones, justice didn't heal the wound. It only confirmed what they already knew. The betrayal had come from the inside. Nancy Murchison, the woman who once took a lost, fragile teenager into her home, said she still sets a place for Taylor at family gatherings. She keeps her photos up, her letters, her badge from the police department. "She was my daughter," Nancy says. "I still talk to her every day." Cassandra Waller, Taylor's girlfriend, continues to live with the weight of deception. She once invited Ashley into her life, never realizing that the woman who smiled across her kitchen table had already buried her partner in concrete. "Ashley knew what she did," Cassandra said softly. "She took someone I loved and then pretended to grieve with me. And then there's Drake, Taylor's son. He was 7 years old when his mother was taken from him. He's growing up now in North Carolina with his father, Jeff, carrying only stories and pictures of the woman who fought so hard to give him stability, love, and a better life." The Florida Court of Appeal upheld Ashley's conviction in 2021. She remains in prison, serving a life sentence, not eligible for parole until 2044. Taylor's bullet necklace, the one found beside her, became more than evidence. It became her symbol: strength, survival, resilience, even in death. She wasn't perfect, but she was trying to rebuild, to be better, to love fiercely despite everything life had taken. Taylor Wright's story reminds us, even in a world of lies, truth eventually surfaces, and sometimes that truth is the only justice we get. Thank you for joining me in remembering Taylor Wright tonight on the Guilty Crime Stories. Her story is one of strength, survival, and the danger of misplaced trust. When we cover these cases, it's not for shock value. It's to honor victims who can no longer speak for themselves. Taylor wasn't just another name in a headline. She was a mother, a daughter, a fighter, and her life deserves to be remembered that way. If this story moved you, take a moment right now to share this video so others hear her name too. And if you're ever in a situation where something feels wrong, trust your instincts. Reach out. Tell someone. Don't stay silent. For more true stories told with empathy and depth, subscribe to the Guilty Crime Stories and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Let's keep their stories alive and let their truths remind us evil hides behind familiar faces, but justice still finds its way through the dark.